This is your chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Yeah, there we go. I see you. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's good to be back here with you starting this new week. I must tell you, it's taken a lot of me to just get together here today. I'm fighting something that has been after me for a few weeks. And I'm just praying it's not that bad flu that's been going around, but I'm doing everything you can think of to just try and just get ahead of this, get a hold of it so it does not get the upper hand of me. So I'm asking you to be patient with me today. But I have to show up. That's what we do. When you're self-employed and you're got a job to do, you got to show up and you smile. And I shared an image with a friend earlier on saying, such is life, we make certain choices. And when reality strikes, you wander off what ifs and you go into down those rabbit holes in your thoughts. And you're like, when reality hits and you get out of those spaces, then you're like, let's keep swimming, just keep swimming. So that's really what I'm doing today. I'm just keeping swimming. But as we gather here today, it's good to be back. Nevertheless, even if I'm not firing on all cylinders today, I am here, and that's all that matter. Joining in this conversation that feels rather urgent. And I want to engage in a conversation because out and about this weekend, and we're hearing it, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, and hence today's episode title, Navigating Life in a Time of Uncertainty, which is what it is. And when you look at the word uncertainty, before we get into all of the crooks and crannies, I'm trying to set the stage here, it's not new at all. Because our ancestors, when you looked at from whence we came, they faced storms without all of this connectivity and social media. They also faced wars and upheavals as well. But really, what makes our moment unique is the speed I'm feeling and pretty much the scale of change as well. And even though we are separated by miles and bodies of water and just distance, even if our countries connect. At the end of the day, we're still somewhat connected, looking at the digital space and the speed in which we can get messaging out and all of that sort of stuff. And that's what makes our moment unique, because from global economics to even when you look at climate change and shifts, right now we're supposed to be in a dry spell here in this region, and what is being forecasted right now, which I'll get into the weather in a couple of minutes, it is actually being forecasted that we're going to have a wetter season, a wetter, dry season. Make that make sense. But it shows that climate change is still actually changing even our times. We're watching all of these things unfold. And we're not straying away from technology to even our very own community well-being. So we're asked really to adapt faster than ever before, is how it feels like. And hence the title, Navigating Life in a Time of Uncertainty. But to be honest with you, it doesn't have to mean fear either, because I'm sensing that in some of the tones and the body language, and you're just stiff, you know. It can also be a doorway to resilience, creativity, and also something that actually may or could unite a divided society. So in this episode, my aim is really to explore along with each of you how individuals like ourselves, families, and even communities can thrive even when the path ahead seems unclear, right? And I encourage you to call in 345-936-8255 and share your stories as well, what you've been feeling. I'd like to hear your feedback. And I want you to be a part of this collective space as we actually navigate in a time of uncertainty what life is like. And just for those of you just joining us, and thank you so much for joining me this evening, the content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and or participants, is intended solely for general, informational, and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. So I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for your specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims any and all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. And again, 345-936-8255 is the number to call to be a part of the discussion. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. I can be found looking on Facebook, Sabrina Turner, community activist, also on YouTube, This Sabrina Speaks Show, and of course, all of your CMR TV platform, social media channels as well. Before getting into the height of the conversation, that is navigating to which, hold on a second, I got some housekeeping here to do, to which we are going to welcome your feedback, definitely. Let's take a look at our weather, which for the record, I'm loving. I don't know about you, but the forecast for tonight calls for cloudy skies with cloudy spells and a 40% chance of showers. Now, temperatures will fall to the mid 70s degrees Fahrenheit, and winds will be east to northeast 5 to 10 knots with higher gusts. Seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Tomorrow's forecast calls for partly cloudy skies, becoming cloudy at times with a 40% chance of morning showers, and temperatures will rise to the mid 80s. Winds will be northeast 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Now, there will be a high tide at 5:44, and tomorrow there'll be a low tide at 12:34 in the morning. Sun will set this evening at 6:05 and sunrise tomorrow morning at 7:02. Now, the sunset tomorrow, Jimbo, has 6:05. Now, the outlook is for variable winds along with slight seas through Wednesday as a front approaches the Northwest Caribbean. So there you have it. And it, as I said earlier on, there's forecasts in the rain for much more showers in and around the Cayman area, leading as far from what I can see forecasters are forecasting into next week. So yes, cool breezes and definitely showers, which means anywhere you're going in the evening, please remember to take your mosquito repellent. It is that segment of Sabrina Speaks where we send happy birthday shout outs to those that we are aware of. And I did not get a picture of my friend, Leda Nicholson Coe. Happy birthday to you, Leda. Happy birthday to you. She was, if you're still there, one of the deputy chief officers, I think, of PAHI. In my time there at government, I used to act for Minister J. Ebanks, and she, amongst a number of the other staff there, was one of my deputy chief officers that I worked closely with. And even before that, we have a relationship. So, Leda, from all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks family, happy birthday to you. I hope that you're having a blast and wishing you many, many, many more birthdays to come. Of course, we want to share in birthday celebrations as well to Soleil Yasmini. Yes, we want to. All of us here on the Sabrina Speaks family. I got it right, Tisha, didn't I? Oh, yes, Soleil. Yes, happy birthday to you, my love. Wishing you many, many, many more birthdays to come and living life to the fullest from all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks family. And of course, on behalf of your extended family, we love you lots and wishing you well wishes on your special birthday and definitely to come, all of those to come. Yeah, there. See, look at all the comments coming up, sharing in this excitement. I'll do the post afterwards because I saw it late. Like I said, I'm just battling, hopefully not a flu, but I thank you for all joining me, and I ask for your patience and understanding today. But 345-936-8255 is the number to call to join in on the conversation because we love to hear from all of you. Hey, Shaka Zulu, good evening to you and happy Monday to you as well. I hope that you had a good weekend and that everybody's had a good weekend and is optimistic. And I hope you followed Jim Norris's instructions and we kept off of the news sites and just detached for a little bit. But I know how that must be, where you feel like you just disconnect and you feel like, oh my gosh, what has happened? What has happened? And you're tempted to go back on social media. But I hope that you all had an opportunity this weekend to spend time with friends and family, unplug, and just really, for a minute, even if it was for a few minutes, just come back to your space here. But it's good to be back here, as I said, with you. Hey, Harry, how you doing? Happy Monday to you as well. Good to see you joining us back. Damian Henry, happy Monday to you as well. Connie Bonnie's in the house. Good evening. Yes, we try right here. A kinder, gentler world and the massive. I like your intro. I like that. I like that, Connie Bonnie. Hi, Marshall. Good to have you here with us as well. Yes. What is Harry Brandon? Off to the races. Would you say that the K-9 Regiment is more symbiotic than a military force of any significance? I'll get back to that. Yes, supporting the stream is like a kind of acknowledgement. Live streamer myself understands the commitment behind. Yes, it is. You got to just show up. You got to. You don't have that luxury of, hey, boss, cover for me. You got to do it. Globalization. Harry's really out to the races today. We're going to get into this. Fairness isn't just in case Sally's just makes sense. Darlene, good to see you here. Happy birthday. Harry's sending happy birthday. Donnie Heights, yes, sharing with the birthday love. Jimbo is in the house. Yes. Thank you so much, Darlene. Yes, Real Michelle. Thank God you have joined us. It's so good, the Real Michelle, to have you here with us today. Now, we want to go straight into the Have You Heard Me segment. And as I said, anybody who wants to join in on any of these segments and give your feedback as well, 345, if you want to join in live in the conversation, 345-936-8255 is the number to call. There's lots been going on for the weekend. We heard for the amount of motor vehicle accidents that have happened, and no matter how you chose to spin it, it's really hard to just steer away from the realities. One good thing that we could say that I saw popped up on one of the local channels is that looks as though police have apprehended. We had a burglar arrested from the CCTV footage where a small business was broken into in Georgetown. I'll get into that as well. But kudos, that surveillance camera aided or assisted in getting that person arrested. So kudos to the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service and for any community participation that assisted in leading to that arrest. But yeah, it is always good to share in those moments when we can have, security cameras that helps our law enforcement officers as well be able to do that. Shaka Zulu is saying relaxing weekend with the exception of tracking the ongoing. I thought you got strict instructions from Jim. Unplug and live life a little bit. But yes, I agree. I'm not going to lie to you, Shaka Zulu. I glanced off a little bit as well. It's hard because it's on everything, even if you pick up your phone because of my job. What I do here, I get a lot of information coming in for what I subscribe to, which is about content. But I just don't want to ever be caught in a position where you don't know what's going on. But sometimes you really do have to unplug. But good for you for having a relaxing weekend. You paced it yourself, Shaka Zulu. And that is the most rewarding feeling where you can actually break it up. I did have down times where my body just felt drained, that I had to really succumb to it and just try to chill for a little bit, even though I tried my culinary skills again in the kitchen. I tried making a milk cake. I didn't share the pictures, did I? No, I didn't. But yeah, that came out pretty nice. It actually tasted like a cream of wheat pudding. That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting. I just try. I do that to just feel relaxed, despite me feeling a little bit under the weather. But yeah, it is that. That's what I did this weekend for my relaxation, and I enjoy doing it. So other recipes I'll share with you as well. But it really tasted good. Yes, Jim says, and he agrees. Insanity on these roadways. Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's one of those crazy cars when you're on those wild tracks. You're driving really now for other people. You are really driving for other people when you're out there, and you are constantly looking and trying to avoid any mishaps and everything. And the pedestrian crossings along the 7 Mile corridor, I don't know if people are just distracted with conversations maybe in their cars, but I was at one of the intersection on Saturday and along the 7 Mile corridor, and I stopped at the light. The light was flashing, and the cars coming from town, because I was coming back into town, had not seen the pedestrian crossing. And they caught themselves, but they were actually almost on the pedestrian crossing. Of course, they apologized, but whatever was going on in that motor vehicle at the time, they were just not aware of the flashing lights and that someone was actually using that pedestrian crossing. And that was on a straight piece of 7 Mile Beach Corridor Road. So I want to encourage persons to really try their best. Well, not try, you got to pay attention on the road, because I would have not have wanted to witness, because that is the infamous crossing where people are saying people are not using the pedestrian crossing. It's in that same vicinity of Old Hyatt there, and coming from the land side, going to the beach side. And my heart was like in my mouth when I saw that happen, really right in the front of me. So I want to ask person to leave home a little earlier. Road rage, you can see a little bit of it on the road, but it's just like everyone is speeding. Why? It's like the signs on the roads that are saying 40 miles an hour, and it's like you want to see them flashing to say slow down. Some of those, when they pass you, especially if they overtake you, 3 lanes, 2 lanes, and what is flashing on those speed things are 63, 75 miles an hour in a 40-mile zone. And you're like, what? You want to see how fast you're going? It's just not making sense. I'm seeing the behaviors like some Caribbean countries that I've visited in the past that swore to the man above that I would never drive in. Well, unfortunately, what I've found myself is that I can take that back, because how I'm actually doing this defensive driving right here on Cayman roads, I don't see why I wouldn't be able, especially if I know where I'm going in certain countries. I could probably do it because it's the same feeling. But yeah, please understand that we are driving on the roads. We're sharing these with persons who are walking, persons who are riding bicycles, persons who are riding motorcycles. And we know the 16th is fast approaching for those who are operating those e-bikes and that sort of stuff. We all got to share the roads. Just be responsible once you're behind the wheel. Please, 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 please. So thank you, Jim. Yeah, it's crazy. Shaka Zuli is saying, let's see the milk cake. Yum. I'll see if I have a picture. Did I take it? I think I sent a picture to my aunt, which, by the way, is still waiting for her piece. But at the rate my household is going, yeah, she could get a sample because it was enjoyable. I must say, it tasted like cream of wheat, like a cream of wheat pudding. How you rotate this? What a mess I'm in here. You may have to turn your head on the side because I am horrible at these things. Shaka Zulu, you fast too. But I'm going to actually give in to you to show you how. It's not like a tres leches. It came out like a custardy type thing. You may have to do this a little bit. Or can I rotate it? Let's see if I can share that with you. You may have to do this to see it. But yeah, I'm going to share it with you. See, Shaka Zulu got me to give in. But it was good. It was good. It was good. It was good. My family tells me if all fails, I can try my culinary skills. There. There. It's really good. That's how it was. That's a 9x13 Pirates dish. So that was my cake. That was my milk cake. And the consistency inside is like a custardy type, but it's still firm enough that you could do it with Cool Whip, or you could do like a butterscotch glaze or something like that. Yeah, you could do it like that. So don't want you to twist your neck because I didn't rotate it. But yeah, that. And it is delicious. It's delicious with a little. I had some mint tea as well yesterday. I had this big thing of mint tea, black mint. And I clipped it up because it was just hanging over the pot. And I made myself some, a nice big warm cup of mint tea. And that was so good. Yeah. Yeah, Johnny, you remember. Oh, yeah, Jim, I'm coming back to you. Yeah. Cream of wheat. But Dawn, this was not cream of wheat. That was milk. And it tasted like cream of wheat cake. So yeah, I'll share the looks as though you guys are getting into this. I'll share the recipe with you all, but yeah, 3 eggs and some milk, and I use some powdered milk as well, and a little bit of butter. Yeah. Denver. No, you talking my language, Dan. Oh yeah, you know what you got me. I probably need some of that to lick out whatever this is I'm feeling anyhow, because oh my God, I feel bad. But I'm here anyhow. You guys are going to make me feel better. But I'll share the recipe. Yeah, I'll share the recipe. Milk cake. It actually came out the consistency similar to that of cream of wheat pudding. Bianca, my cousin, came by and she had a piece, and she said, Sabrina, it tastes like cream of wheat pudding. I said, but there's no cream of wheat in it. It's a milk cake. But I'll share it with you guys for sure. Let's see what Jimbo is saying. Much online, TV, radio, and conversation is far too negative anymore. The reason why I shut it off, shut it down, and walk away from it more and more every day. Go outside, take a walk, get out in the garden, or take a good long look at what surrounds us. These beautiful blues. Otherwise, you get sucked into the noise. I tell you the truth, Jim. You're not lying, but it's hard to avoid it because we still entertain ourselves and it's popping up everywhere. Yeah, but I'll send it to you. Dawn, thank you for sharing that, Jimbo. And sure, Dawn, of course. Well, let's look at the Have You Heard? Denver, you sound like you're my friend. You're my friend. You're my friend. Little cognac. Oh, yeah. Let's look at the, I'm hearing now that some of the top 3 Have You Heard pretty much that's making its rounds here in Cayman, around the world, and of course in our Caribbean region. And this is based on what people are actually talking about. And I know, Jimbo, you You shut it off. Good for you, but you're here with me, and that counts. So, just in case any of these missed you, there is a story that is making locally here in the Cayman Islands that is entitled Zero Duty Motion on Recycling Equipment. Oh, very interesting. Have you heard that there is another motion that has been filed to cut? It's a request asking the government to consider to cut import duty on recyclable machines like glass cutters or crushers and plastic shredders. Yeah. So, what that would mean for any business, and we're talking about being more innovative and creating an atmosphere where a person can see themselves getting into business. What this would mean, it could be cheaper for businesses or communities to purchase these tools, needing to actually promote more recycling here in the Cayman Islands. So, what we need to take away from this motion is that waste management isn't just government. It actually provides an opportunity for businesses. And, it shows how we as citizens can handle our trash and protect our islands all in the same breath. So kudos to them for filing that motion. Let's see. Boy, there's going to be a lot to talk about when the House goes back in session based on all of these motions. Right now, private members' motions, meaning motions being filed from the opposition. So it's going to be interesting what actually makes the agenda and how quickly, and to hear the debates on all of these as well. Another story that's making local headlines is that scientists are warning about I don't know if you all have heard about the coral disease threat that is actually becoming more and more apparent now in Little Cayman. And what they're finding out is that science are warning about this coral disease and its pace on which it's spreading in Little Cayman. Remember now, between our three islands, Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman, that was actually known as one of the areas with the best dive and snorkeling sites because of the vast amount of marine life and sites that was almost like untouched. And now here you have this coral disease that is spreading very quickly over there in Little Cayman, and that can do havoc on our tourism product for those who go over there and dive. Now, this is something big for us and something that we should be concerned about because, of course, having healthy reefs protects our shores, and it also supports tourism as well. And not only that, but healthy reefs and corals actually feed our fish. So one of the big things from this is that when we hear of situations of this matter, we should all be concerned. And it is not just an environmental issue, which is at the core part, but it's also about safeguarding our economy and definitely our way of life. So this is something that we need to keep a close eye on. And I'm hoping that additional information is shared with the public. If there's any little things that we can do for those dive boat operators and those persons who dive and snorkel and even go fishing, if it's something that we're using or something that we're doing, that can be shared in the public's domain as well. And we spoke about the robbery out on the waterfront. And we know that at the end of the day, crime prevention is another thing that can impact our product here, our tourism product, and can definitely distort our way of life here. So we want to make sure that we do everything to make sure that we keep our businesses safe. Try as much as possible to not leave. I'm hearing money's being left in some of these places. And even though this one burglar has actually been apprehended, they actually walked away with cash. You're actually signaling to other opportunists that there could be cash left in tills or on these premises. You need to make sure that you secure your place. And thankful for this small business owner, they had good footage that they were able to capture this image that helped in the arrest, but others may not have those necessary things in place that could assist police, definitely. So we want to make sure that you do the right things. Don't leave things open. And for example, just don't leave cash. Just don't. So crime prevention in this case isn't only about policing. It's about our community awareness and definitely reporting and helping those police do their jobs as well. I'm going to make sure that I keep up my best with all of you guys here. Don't we have to hear it in have it here in Cayman water? But yeah, we have it here, Jim, but it's spreading, it seems, even faster right now in Little Cayman. Yeah, it's from what they're seeing over there, it's spreading very fast in Little Cayman, and it's becoming a cause of concern. Yeah. So at the end of the day, we got to do what we got to do. Denver is wondering if it's not a wade seepage in Little Cayman. Not from where I saw the landfill. It's not, no, that's in the middle of the island. And not for what they have there right now, the amount that they have there, Denver. I would take a stand on a limb that it wouldn't be for waste seepage. There's probably something bigger afoot that's going on over there, but it wouldn't be from their landfill, not from what I recall seeing. I would be surprised if that's the case. Yeah. Jimbo says, I thought we were I thought there were some dive companies going out and working to educate the best. Yeah, they were, but I guess with all the data now and it's making more of its presence, you're seeing now it's probably reached a critical stage where they probably can't do it, to be honest. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but we leave it to the scientists to figure it out. But I think they were telling people even being careful of what they're disinfecting their dive gear with, because they were thinking maybe it's whatever is that. Then some people actually had said that it could be suntan lotion and all that sort of stuff. They were saying it was global warming as well. But if these disease, I'm not a scientist. I don't know. These are all just conversations that were being had. But right now it's reached a point now in Little Cayman that it's very obvious. It's spreading very quickly and they don't even know if they can actually slow it down. Yeah. So there we go. Have you heard also some of the big stories are making it in the United Kingdom as well? I don't know, some of my UK people can add to this, like Poundland and Primark. These are some high street closures. Big stores like Poundland and Primark are closing branches. That's making big conversations right now in the UK. And it is basically what they're saying is that it's showing a sign of how shopping habits are changing. And we're seeing that as well in the United States, is that they're having malls that are like ghost towns. Well, when they're seeing stuff like this, like Primark and Poundland closing, it's really showing, hey, things are changing. People are doing more stuff online. And you know what that can do, or what that means for jobs, and the impact that it could also have on local economies as well. That is actually signaling and reminding us that consumers' trends can affect even small islands like this. We're seeing where people are just shopping more online. Eventually, we're seeing some stores here. We don't have the big block stores like in the UK, but that's not to say that some of the mom and pop stores that we have here, let's say for clothing and other items, will not face its same fate. So you got to keep definitely your eyes on this and watch what's going on. I thought that was quite interesting. Also here, closer at home, whoa, Harry, fair enough. Okay, I think there's an online conversation that's going on. Thanks. I love you guys are entertaining yourself. This one is in relation to what I just said. I feel like everything is closing where I am. The high street is dead and everything is so expensive here in the UK. Really? Well, I'm telling you, coming out of the UK right now, it's very topical right now, besides the weather and whatever just passed through there. But this is a big concern, and they're expecting that others are actually on the threshold of actually closing some of its branches as well. This Morgan Fleetwood is saying, hate shopping Amazon, but the prices are just too competitive. And you see, that's what these bricks and mortar stores are competing with. And then you have all of these where you are, the delivery services, you don't have to leave your home. And if you're somebody like myself who works from home that it can possibly have your grocery shopping deliver, why venture out on the roads? Why go out? So again, consumer trends, what people want is what is actually closing some of these. And it's going to have an indirect effect, like what we said, the produce suppliers, the meat cutters, and all of that sort of stuff. When some of these stores actually close, consider it. People losing their jobs unless they go to another branch, and how much can they absorb? God forbid. That is not the case here in the Cayman Islands. It's if that is, we can't compare ourselves, and we're not comparing ourselves. But if persons find themselves unable to be able to deal with the cost of operating operating their business because it's just so expensive, that could result into the same thing, be it a clothing store, be it a souvenir store, be it a local hangout spot, or even a restaurant, for example. What you're buying and the sales got to add up, and then you got to pay your staff, your utilities, your pension, your medical insurance, liability insurance, and all that sort of stuff. So you got to really crunch the numbers nowadays if you're looking to go into entrepreneurship to see if it's value for, and always prepare for the unexpected. So these are considered high street closures. So that in itself speaks volumes. In the Cayman Islands, does your assembly have a whip system or for all of your parties within? There's a whip that is usually appointed, but to say that it's pronounced, no, not really. You usually identify that amongst your peers. They're trying to modernize it, Harry, but it hasn't gotten there where it should be as yet. Because in the UK, the vote has become very predictable and debate pretty pathetic because everyone is scared of the whipping system. Well, I don't know. No, it's not like that here. And even if that is the case and one is identified amongst our peers, it is not that stronghold that I should say enforced. So we got a long way to go there. Damien Henry says cyber shopping taking over here. Yeah. It's the lazy generation. Oh, really? Plus most stores going online, less expense for them. Yeah, Damien, I can see it happening, but I can see also from what a small island development states that it may be a little bit harder to completely shift to total online because of the dynamics of our islands. Now, like in the United States and Canada and so forth, like that, of course, the sheer numbers, the mass size, they can actually do it. For us here, based on limits, like, can you see, we have seen a case where one of the Hurley stores in East End after a hurricane never reopened. But then we had another food chain that went in another portion of East End. But now Hurley's is building another location along Walker's Road. It's a little, the dynamics here in the Cayman Islands are a little different. I see, if anything, I know some of us in the islands, we offer delivery service where you can possibly go on their website, which is a smaller version of online shopping. But to say that it's going to reach the pivotal point that we could possibly have, remember, we don't have indoor malls here. We have shopping plazas. And just for a little humor, some of those spaces, to be honest, are on demand. And then I was speaking, funny enough, you said that brought this up. I was speaking this weekend, every plaza, there's a church. So, but yeah, we're going to watch the dynamics here, Damien. I don't think we would ever get there, but I agree. There is a lot of online shopping, but they're competing and shopping on websites that are not even Cayman. So besides the freight forwarders or those small parcel, like, let's say Aeropost or Sprint or some of them, those are the only ones that still get business. The freight forwarders will still do business, but then what happens to the competing stores here, that's who they're competing with, based on what you're buying. Denver, retail in the mid-range has been dying for the past 10 to 12 years. Low end and high end will survive. You know what, Denver? That is a reflection. That is a reflection of when people say that there's no middle class, that the middle class is actually dying breed. So what you have actually mentioned here is probably a reflection of, do you think, I'm just asking out there, I'm just throwing it out there, do you think it's a reflection of where we're going as a society as a whole? You're either very rich, the front gate line rich, the Tiffany's rich, the are you that rich, or are you the Dollar General? It's either one or the other. So it's worth looking at, Denver. Good comment though. Good comment. Amazon now offers just about everything, literally. You are quite right, Kim. Yeah, and with what they're doing now, delivering even here in the Caribbean, definitely the Cayman Islands, people are more inclined to purchase it. I don't know if it's because you just put in what you're looking for in the search engine and it comes up, versus getting in your car, driving to multiple stores on island to see if they have it, and then you still end up not having it, and a friend going up, or like I said, you can just go sit down, never leave home, order it, and in a couple days, based on what you're ordering, it's here. And it's even when you pay your freight and duty, it's even cheaper. So unfortunately, that's the way of the world. That's who we're competing with. And small business owners just really got to prepare for whatever. Money cannot be eaten, folks. That's the real Michelle. People like you. There we go. Yeah. So the party gives its opinion, but each legislator can basically get away with voting however they want and saying whatever they want. It's not that open here. We believe in collective responsibility from what we're seeing, especially from the government side, Harry. And they pretty much, when you vote, they vote in unison for togetherness. And what we have seen displayed on the floor of Parliament is that you can kind of predict it, even when they call for a division on a vote, that each person's name is called out and you state clearly exactly where you stand for the government right now in this composition. It is clear that once one says aye or yes, the rest will say the same. And the only time you will see a difference is, of course, in the opposition, because we have an opposition that comprise of one party, and then we have another set not in the government, but they're considered independent. So we don't know how those two individuals will vote. So it's interesting how it all plays out. If so, that awesome. We need to get back to that. Yeah. I hope that was provided some sort of idea. But the House is going back to, I think they're supposed to be meeting sometime in this first quarter, pretty soon. Don't have the dates yet. So it'll be interesting, Harry, that you tune in and you just see how we operate here. It's not the mayhem that I'm seeing over there in the UK for sure. The real Michelle says, unless you are a buttery bank, that is gobble, gobble. There we go. Denver says, well, exactly because the middle class, which makes the world turn, has been literally wiped out. And you kind of wonder why, Denver, and how. Yes, you kind of wonder why. Is it society? Is it the cost of living? What factors? We're just speaking this in the, let's look at the Cayman context now, or even the small islands. We still have a good amount in I would say, the middle class here. Even though, like you said, from one generation to the next, it looks like it's becoming shrunken, and it's either you're far left or far right when it comes to class for this context. So yeah, I don't know what's going to steer that. It would be interesting to do a deep dive in why the middle class, because I heard that shortly from in the early 90s, that the middle class, there soon won't be a middle class. but there's still a few that's still hanging on. What would be the factors for that deep dive would be interesting. Yeah. Harry, would you agree that the Cayman Regiment is more symbiotic than the actual military force of any importance? Harry, I'm going to do an episode on all of that to just break it down for you. To be honest with you, just answering that in isolation, you need to provide in my role. I would prefer to provide more context because that is a topic in itself that requires ventilation. That piece of legislation under the Defense Act, I know Denny spoke about it the last time we were here, but it was never, in my humble opinion, properly presented. Having been very young, and it still is very young, from only 2021, I feel that really needs to be looked at, compared, broken down, dissected in layman's terms for us to come to that final conclusion. Because really and truly, what the legislation, the Defense Act, which that falls under, is saying and how they actually operate is two different things. And I feel once we are able to do that and deliver that in layman's terms, then hopefully this audience and our society from a civic standpoint will understand exactly, based on what the law is saying and what its true intent and purpose was going to be. How they're actually performing right now really doesn't 100% reflect exactly what their intended purpose is. So I'm going to shelf that for a little bit, and then we can definitely come back to that as well. As I have said before, Real Rochelle is saying the bankster gangster, the churches, the cults, the schools, all an illusion, and now it shall be exposed. There we go. Zuni. Yes, it's very difficult to do business in the Cayman Islands. There is not much commercial space for rent, and the existing rent are skyrocketing, make it difficult to actually make a profit after paying all monthly expenses. We need developers to invest in affordable commercial spaces where people can actually take the chance to start a business. Sonny, that has been one of the biggest setbacks in a lot of business, even if it's administrative as well, what you're paying for commercial space if you do a business that have to or aren't able to work remotely or even work from home. But if you're one of those businesses that have to do the bricks and mortar, having to actually have a location, yes, rent is something that has been a huge factor. By the time you cover your overhead, there's nothing left. And then worse, if you have staff, that you have to pay those salaries, you have to pay the pension and all the other deductions that have to come out of it. And if it is products that you're selling to resell, just supplies and just keeping them can form a challenge. So there were incentive programs to help, but is that enough? When we look at, again, there are other factors that impact whatever business you may do. And some businesses are more impacted by what's happening within your environment, what's happening regional, what's happening global, and then customer trends as well. So I think to any aspiring entrepreneurs that are out there, you really need to spend a little bit more time in exploring what you want to do as a business and see its sustainabilities and see how quickly, should the environment change, that you can pivot and still remain relevant. Advertising is one thing. A second thing, we've always heard as small business owners, as being a former small business owner myself, and still is, by the way, location, location, location. But that all depends on what services or products you are actually selling, or the nature of business that you're in, that will determine all of that. But if you're one of those businesses that requires a commercial space to operate, then yes, rent is a huge factor. We know what it's like right now because they're saying they want to bring life back to Georgetown. And it's almost impossible to find something that's affordable for a small business, and worse, a startup, if you don't own it yourself or have a family member that owns commercial location in Georgetown. It's almost impossible. And that's a deterrent as well. Hence, we're seeing a lot more persons that are taking the risks and just trying to start up, let's say from their home store, or just being creative and start it with their own social media platform page until they're able then to see the demand, and then they go out. But even then it's scary, because sometimes when they put their foot out there, get a secure location, then the cost of operations still hit them hard, or God forbid, unforeseen, uneventful events happening within the region or around the world that could impact your operations. So Zoni, I am all for innovation. I am all for entrepreneurial. That's in my bones. And I encourage anyone to embark on it. But make sure you do your research first, because you got to be prepared for the unexpected. My former life, I was in business for 15 years. And to tell you that COVID didn't hit me, yes, it did. It hit hard. It hit everybody hard. But in the line of business that I was in at that time, before I changed careers and went into politics, by now I would have rebounded big time if I had stayed into it. But not everybody was able to even come back from the lockdown based on the type of businesses. And we saw some businesses who came up during COVID that did very well. Some was short-lived. After the pandemic, they died. And some created a space for themselves, and they're doing very well to this day. So do your research, get some guidance. And if persons are honest who are already in business, it helps sometimes to just get some feedback. Now, let me just tell you something, Sonny. Not everyone's going to hold your hand. A lot of us are there to guide you, but your dream is your dream. I can't walk that for you. And you can give your ideas, but you have to make that, because your investment is your return. I can't understand that for you. And not every model works for everybody, but it's good to have a community that understands doing business. And there are some persons who were in business, like the Small Business Association. They have a pool of persons who would be able to possibly guide you as well, and tap into resources that you may not know that is available here in the Cayman Islands. So do your homework. Yeah, there are resources out there that could probably help you. Damien, this is why most UK stores closing down and going online. Shoplifting in the UK has reached a record high, with police in England and Wales recording over 530 offenses in the year to March of 2025. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh my God. We don't bring him up here, to be honest, but thank you for your question. He's who he is. Harry, do you guys have your own version of the greatest comic show in the world, known as Prime Minister's Question? That was just introduced. Where we just did that. And this premier, Minister Andre Ebanks, was the first one to be able to be questioned on the floor of Parliament. Yes, that was just introduced in this administration. I have a question that came in. I would like to be the one to define and elaborate on what they consider as the middle class. I too have been for hearing for a couple of decades that there will soon be no middle class, or it is already non-existent. However, I venture to say that the large majority of people I know, my acquaintances, as well as friends and family, neither rich nor poor, but indeed fall in the middle class, as well as their circle. So it makes me wonder why people always say the middle class is threatened. I said that. Thank you for that comment, my WhatsApp commenter. That is why I said earlier on that here in the Cayman Islands, I think that the middle class is still existent. However, I've heard that from my days of 1990 that it's fading. Maybe because the middle class is not out there in your face, and we just pretty much on the ground doing what we got to do, not showing off what we have to prove that we're middle class. Or maybe the ESO data is not picking it up. Or maybe it's just talk because you're not seeing them. But I agree with you. There are still a number of families that consider themselves, I would deem as middle class here in the Cayman Islands. So I don't feel that if you really took a temperature check on the middle class, that it is as low as you think here in the Cayman Islands. But to say that, yes, for decades, I have been hearing that. And where's the metrics to prove that? Have they become more insulated and just keeping busy and not making anybody know? I don't know. It'll be interesting. Hence, I said it'll be worth looking into to see where they've come up with that, with that language. Jim, taxes. Real Michelle says, at Denver, because it is all a scam controlled by 1%. And okay, I think that is, I have, Harry says, also, it baffled me when people started talking about it because defense is a reserve power and not evolved to any be it British overseas territories or crown dependency or even Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland. Excuse me. So, yeah, okay, no problem. Yeah, that's in regards to what I'm saying. Real Michelle is speaking to Harry. Harry, when Ivan hit, the UK Navy sat on the sidelines, not permitted in to assist because of fear the faith in the financial system would be diminished or obliterated. Yeah, so Harry, she's answering, Real Michelle is answering you. Denver is saying the middle class is shrinking because wages have stagnated while the cost of essentials like housing, healthcare, and education have skyrocketed. At the same time, wealth is concentrating at the top, leaving fewer families in the middle and pushing many either into poverty or into the upper middle class. So to my WhatsApp commenter, that's Denver's explanation there. Lots of comments going on here in the comment section. Thank you for that, keeping it real. Real Michelle says also the UK Navy waited until the Cayman government gave the okay. As I recall, the Navy and all media were denied access to Cayman at first, and that's for Hurricane Ivan. I was not a member of parliament during that time. I was actually still a nurse. No, Ivan, I was an immigration officer. And what I was hearing about that time as well, yeah, is that the government of the day did not allow any media to come in, and that they did everything that they did to avoid messing up our tourism product. And we pretty much got back into doing what we had to do in order to rebuild ourselves. And whatever science metrics that they use, here we are today. And it did not impact our tourism product. We rebound. Some people, the only outcry I heard was from the adjusters of the insurance companies. But aside from that, we came right back. So whatever metrics was used during that time, they held it together. And at the end of the day, here we are. We have actually come back. Yeah. The Real Michelle says our perspective is wholly controlled by a false prophet. Keith is saying, I called the Art Connor show this morning and asked Dr. Steve if England could force our young men to go to war with them, and he said they could not. They would have to ask. They would have to ask them, meaning the Cayman Islands. Keith, like I said, it was only over the weekend. I did not get to, but I didn't get that was the case, even though Denny said it could. And I allowed the conversation to think, but I am doing my thorough checks into that. I know that Danny is versed. He does his homework, but I have to confirm it for myself exactly how that works, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, COVID kept us all inside and stopped markets and failed attempt to correct a corrupt system. And everybody behaved themselves. And because of that, we were able to walk around freely, the Real Michelle. And I think that we're all here to live to tell the tale now today, because of to say that we got it right. God forbid if we were to have a pandemic again, what would it be like? You just got to do what you got to do with the best you can, advice that you have at the time, and just, I guess, in the best interest of preserving life, and based on the information that was received at that time, the government of the day felt that they did the best and locked us down, and hence we were the envied of the world. I can't even say the region. We were envied by the world, because when everybody was locked down and had restrictions, we were moving around freely. And we give God thanks for that to this day. So here we go. Jim, too many businesses without business license are selling online and taking away from those who do business license. Just go and check out the sites like Marketplace, Cayman Buy and Sell, and the likes. Jim, that's almost impossible to manage, to control, because you would have the trade and business enforcement officers who are actually monitoring some of these sites. And a single pop-up is one thing, but there are actually ongoing businesses that are happening right there. And, at the end of the day, we just got to make sure that our enforcement officers are empowered to do their jobs. And that's just another area that they have to look into when it comes to actual enforcing and upholding of our laws. So it's going to be very interesting how online shopping, online businesses such as marketplaces you've alluded to, how they actually handle stuff. It's a changing world, and it is our operational arm of government constantly have to be on their P's and Q's when it comes to certain things. Yeah. And online is one of those things as well. So, live happy. My apologies. Just tuning in. One of the problems I see with Cayman small business owners is that many do not fully understand the concept of entrepreneurship. They are often too quick to hire. Part 2 says, during startup stage, the whole idea of being a sole trader is that you run your business yourself, especially in the beginning. Live happy also says, I'm going back to part 3, Caymanians expect to make money the moment they open their door. Business does not work like that. You have to build it yourself. Some Caymanians get into business and know nothing about it. And this is why I said you have to, I guess this is part 5, Cayman needs to get out of the mindset that, oh, I need to hire somebody. It all depends on the type business as well. Live happy, in my humble opinion, because some of the businesses that you start up, yes, I agree. You may want to start up, let's say, a car wash business. And even though based on demand, you may get a contract, you may need multiple hands in order to get the job done. But I agree with all of the points you have actually pointed out, which is why I said it is best for some of these small business owners to really just go out, explore the type of business that they're doing, do their research before, as you rightfully say, jumping into it. There are a lot of pitfalls. You have organizations, you have individuals as well that can hold your hand and to guide you. So once you actually invest that money into starting a business, that money is lost if you don't bring it to reality or see it through to the end. And a lot of it has to do with proper guidance, as you rightfully say, but hiring people, not realizing the overheads is a big downfall. I will agree with you on that, to be honest with you. And people do not understand the responsibility that it actually has, that they have when they employ staff, the responsibility that comes with it, and also the overhead. Sabrina, fixed, improved, or just delayed the government tactics of the day during, it's probably a combination of a number of things, Rochelle, to be honest with you. Probably, like I said, those days I was not even in this space And a lot of people just paid attention only afterwards. So I could have overlooked something. Where I am now with current events and looking at it, would be hard for me to call it at that time. And I don't want to assume. But here we are today. Sylvester says, I would say to start by finding a way to lower the rent of commercial tenants and for their light bill, which are sky high, to ensure that when that's done, they will have to lower the cost of their merchandise. So consumers will find it more comfortable, because all consumers are struggling to try and find a way around the high cost of living. So tell me, is it normal that a dozen eggs cost $12? Ay. These are some of the things that persons are constantly complaining about the cost of living. I know that Sylvester, the farmers market, and their individuals, just for eggs, I'm just speaking on this, we may have to diversify. We may have to change our spending habits. We may have to look at other ways. I can't tell any of the big block supermarkets how much to sell their stuff for. Like we said, there are new costs that governments has imposed that came in effect on January 1st. We are all going to see that. I was at a fast food joint this weekend, and I've already seen the increase in prices. It's inevitable. It's going to impact every single one of us. And every business is going to be impacted by these increased in fees. Now, does that mean persons will leave and that would create a space then for more locals to be employed? If the business are not able to operate in a way where they can have the room to absorb locals and they decide to close, how are you creating more employment? 345-936-8255 is the number to call to join in and weigh in on this conversation. But it's a delicate dance. We all said, let's see what's going to happen, and let's hope for the best. Keith Orrit says, the marketing plan is the most important part when starting a business. You're quite right, because that requires research as well. And this is why some banks are not inclined to give, especially small businesses, startup loans, unless you can demonstrate, like you said, this marketing plan and it makes sense. Because remember, that's a risk. And it goes right into what Jim has said. It usually takes 3 to 5 years to start making a profit when starting a business. And based on what type of business it is, sometimes it can take as long as 7 to 10 years. And remember, now we're in a hurricane belt. We're seeing what's happening around the world. So a number of things can impact that, Jim, as well, that could actually extend the time. Some startup business do very well. It's like they found that sweet spot and good to go. But on a bigger scale of things, 3 to 5 years is quite right. 7 to 10, for sure. But we're seeing where the times have changed, and there are less persons, especially financial institutions, that are less inclined. They are less inclined to even assist small size businesses with financing. Hence, the government sometimes step in to offer incentives. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Hi.
Hi.
I want to read something for you. Tell me what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Duties of the Regiment, Section 5 of the Defense Act. It says that the regiment is responsible for A, the defense of the islands, B, assisting the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service and the Coast Guard when called upon to do so by the governor, and C, providing such humanitarian assistance and disaster relief and other duties as the governor, after consultation with the premier, determines.
Mm-hmm.
What does that say to you?
With her permission, if she says yes, they go. For the last part.
Well, it says other duties.
Other duties. That could mean anything. That's broad.
as she determined. Now, here's the part that they normally try to put up to make people believe that, oh, that's not possible. They say after consultation with the premier.
Mhm.
What does consultation with the premier mean?
It all depends, because sometimes that consultation could mean telling you this is what I'm going to do. I'm just making you know. Or
Well,
a consultation could be we've had a discussion and the premier has said, look, let me go back to my caucus, let me go back to my team and let them know. But it all depends.
yeah, but
Consultation could be defined in a number of ways based on the nature of it.
well, consultation means that the governor would speak to the premier about what the governor is planning on doing
Mm-hmm.
to receive feedback from the premier. Now, it didn't say act in accordance with the premier's advice. It just says after consultation.
Consultation.
So if I'm obligated to consult you about the pizza that I want to buy later,
Mm-hmm.
here's what I would say to you. Which pizza do you think I should buy?
Mm-hmm.
And then you would tell me, I think you should get this one. Da, 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 da. Now I have consulted you.
But I
And
don't think you should have pizza. I think we should go for pasta. You're
and
not
that's
giving
noted.
that option, dude.
And your opinion is noted. I have consulted you. I have consulted you. I didn't say act in accordance with your advice.
Mm-hmm. You've consulted. So I've been made aware.
That's right.
It's for me now as the premier to go back and tell my other colleagues.
That's right.
Hmm.
It's not act in accordance with. You know, like you see that this power is really broad. And here's the thing, right? This says that we're responsible for the defense of the islands, and islands means the Cayman
All
Islands.
three. Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that the governor can't decide that you should fight in some other country, because when it comes to strategy about fighting, sometimes it is better you fight in another place than your own place, because war destroys everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you fight somewhere else to save Cayman, it might be in the best interest of Cayman that you fight somewhere else, so that hopefully you defeat your enemy, and two, you don't destroy your own infrastructure.
Hmm. Oh, wow.
So
Go ahead.
don't make anybody tell you
That they
that
can't.
it can't be. That's absolute nonsense. I want you to think for a moment of any other power anywhere else in legislation in the Cayman Islands where the governors, meaning the representative of the king,
Mm-hmm.
is limited.
Yep.
Normally, they might say something like, you have to appoint the person who is, I don't know, maybe let's say the deputy governor or whatever, or has to act in a certain way like that. But generally speaking, because those are constitutional, agreements, right?
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, when the governor is acting in the governor's discretion, you don't get that kind of limitation. The best you get is the kind of stuff you see here.
Here.
I'll ask you what you think. I'll take your advice and I'll consider it. But now that I've considered your advice, you didn't change my mind, so I'm going to continue with what I originally planned.
I see. What do you take on Damien Henry's comment? The UK can call upon the Cayman Islands Regiment as it's a reserve unit established with the UK support to enhance the territory's disaster response, but it primarily serves local needs, with the UK providing training and oversight, strengthening the relationships, and the regiment being locally recruited and led for regional reliance, chess moves on demand in Cap.
Well,
What's your take on
I
that?
had a grandfather that served in Trinidad and in World War II. So the point I'm making to you is that sometimes where you're located doesn't mean that it's not in the interest of the Cayman Islands. Fighting World War II was in the interest of the Cayman Islands, but most people weren't fighting in the Cayman Islands.
Correct.
So
Correct. Correct.
that's it. The war doesn't work that way.
Mm-mm.
War is you do whatever it takes to win, right?
Harry made an interesting comment here. I'm almost certain that law is completely illegal unless the UK government agreed to it at some point.
Well, it can't become law unless the representative of the king assents to it.
And in that case, it was assented to.
It was assented to, yes.
Yeah.
In fact, a constitutional point there is members of parliament don't make legislation. Essentially, when they say they have voted on something and it has passed, it is not law.
Until.
That is just a recommendation to the governor
Mhm.
about whether they believe that it should be made into law. And because the entity that makes legislation isn't members of parliament, it's actually it's the way that it's worded in the current iteration of the Constitution is the legislature.
Mhm.
Legislature doesn't mean the elected members. It means the elected members acting and the governor acting to bring it into law. So I can't remember what section that's in, but I think it's 50 something
Do
of the Constitution,
do
and
you-
it defines what the legislature means. So the the um the members of parliament are just the elected members,
Mhm.
but the legislature is the elected members plus the governor.
Since you've described it the way you've done, it's a recommendation to be assented to, right? Do
Yeah.
you feel that that's probably where and why the immigration reform is not expected, as reported, to possibly come in effect in March, understanding the time it went to Parliament? I'm quite sure the governor has to go back
I,
through it, and we're
I,
still lacking the regulations.
yeah, from what I'm understanding, they have to then consolidate all of what was done in the committee stage, and that process is actually longer than people realize that it is to bring legislation.
So a piece of
Yeah,
legislation of that magnitude with all of those amendments.
has to be completed first, yeah, because then it has to be gazetted,
Mhm.
right? And before it can come into law.
Mhm.
But I'm going to see if I can find. Well, let's see. 1 second here.
Section 59 of the Constitution defines legislature.
Read it for me.
Hold on, let me put it up.
Yeah. So, the process of getting from the point of saying, "Hey, let's change the law on something," to getting it signed by the governor,
Mhm.
I think that's like about 30 something steps. It's not
Oh,
it's not it's not as simple as people think it is.
yeah. And then with all that was happening, the governor, hold on, I'm trying to get it here. 59 subsection 1.
So you got to read both 1 and
Mhm.
2, I think. The what I was going to say is that the power to administer the country
Mhm.
is vested in the governor, right? I'm going to read 43 of the Constitution, which is
I'm just pulling it
executive,
up here. My system is really slow right now.
which is executive authority.
Mhm.
It says that the executive authority of the Cayman Islands is vested in Her Majesty. Subject to this Constitution, the executive authority of the Cayman Islands shall be exercised on behalf of Her Majesty by the government, consisting of the governor as Her Majesty's representative and the cabinet, either directly or through public officers. Nothing in this section shall preclude persons or authorities other than the government from exercising such functions as are or may be conferred on them by any law. And so um, the
Okay, got it.
the responsibility. You see how we were talking about the Defense Act and consultation.
Mhm.
So think about this. For example, there's a difference between the meaning of the word authority and responsibility. The governor, the authority for administering the country rests with the governor. The responsibility of doing the tasks of administering the country
Right.
is the responsibility of the cabinet, right?
Mhm.
And in other words, when it comes to legislation, the governor is responsible for ultimately bringing the law um, into effect. But what the MPs in Parliament do is they go through the work of debating that, and in effect, what is happening is that the governor is consulting
Right.
the Parliament about what the law should say.
I got it here, Danny. 59 subsection 1. There shall be a legislature of the Cayman Islands, which shall consist of Her Majesty and the Legislative Assembly, which we know is now His Majesty. And subsection 2, subject to this Constitution, the legislature may make laws for peace, order, and good government in the Cayman Islands.
Right. So you see where it says which shall consist of Her Majesty and the legislative.
Which shall, yeah, consist
Yes.
of
Her Majesty and the
and yes.
legislature. So the Legislative Assembly doesn't make the law. It's the Legislative Assembly and Her Majesty, meaning His Majesty at the moment.
Mhm.
So it is the two those that concept acting, the one legally defined as the legislature
Mhm.
acting, that makes the laws, not the MPs
Right.
themselves.
Hmm.
So what the governor is essentially doing is consulting with the Legislative Assembly,
Mhm.
and nothing is different from that concept than the concept of consulting with the premier about whether Caymanians should fight in war.
Danny, it keeps coming back every time we have these type of discussions. Then why is it that locals continue to speak with a tone as though we're independent? It keeps coming up because even
I know.
how you see we get on social media platforms, we make comments, and we forget that we're not an independent jurisdiction. So go back to the question, why is it that we take on that tone?
I'll tell you, the UK is one of the most deceptive countries in the entire world. Speaking of war, right? Rule number 3 of war is deception. Rule number 1 of war is never underestimate your opponent. In other words, never underestimate how deceptive they can be. Now, I watched the House of Commons for years. I mean, a lot of the content.
Mm-hmm.
And this was when the UK was leading up to Brexit. And it was around that time when the UK switched its branding to what they now use called Global Britain.
Mm-hmm.
And another synonym for Global Britain is globalism. And so, you know how you would think of, you have a company and a company has a subsidiary that, like, it might be called something completely different. And you don't associate the two companies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Globalism is Britain's effort to continue imperialism around the world. And the method of promoting and achieving that degree of control and influence globally is British diplomacy. So instead of using muskets and swords as they used to do, they now use words. And so you should not let the politeness
Fool you.
in which they speak lull you into some sense of stupidity,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to understand that diplomacy is just another way of, it's a fancy word for non-violent warfare.
Right.
But make no mistake about it, you're at war.
Wow. Harry has a question for you. Can you ask the caller whether he believes the Defence Act is constitutional under the powers granted to the Cayman government by the UK Parliament?
Yep. Yep. Most certainly is.
And he says, because in his mind, that is well beyond the constitutional parameters of what
Well,
even the governor couldn't agree to without London's consent.
oh, well, it's when the governor is acting, the governor isn't just some rogue entity in the Cayman Islands just acting without instructions from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what's happening.
Right.
Um, the governor is doing what the U. But keep in mind, it was the PPM at the time bringing this bill into motion, into existence.
Right.
If our own politicians wanted it, right? So if our politicians was asking for it, you have to understand that legislatively,
Mm-hmm.
if our politicians are asking for it and the UK agrees to it, there is nothing that would be unconstitutional about that.
Okay. I know that when that particular bill was going through, it was actually another case where similar we saw reflected on the floor of Parliament with the immigration reform, and it had seemed to be rushed at that time. I know you were very much on the if you could recall back when that law was coming into effect in order for the regiment to get started. And I think Hansard's will actually reveal that there were, even at that time, the Speaker of the House then says he must admit he didn't read it himself, but yet it was passed, understanding the Speaker has no voting rights.
Yeah, that doesn't change
You
anything.
see what I'm saying? But
yeah,
how many
once
more actually
it
were in
goes
that
through
position?
the House, what the requirements are, you follow a procedure to go through the House, and the House says, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
Your Excellency, we consent to this. So this is what we think should be done.
Mm-hmm.
That gets sent to the governor,
Right.
and the governor signs it, and it gets published in the Gazette, and it's law.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't for 1 second believe that there's anything unconstitutional about it.
Okay.
I don't have. Listen, this bill, I scrutinized this bill with a magnifying glass.
That is the immigration one.
No, sorry.
Which one?
No, this is the Defense
The Defense
Act.
Act. Okay.
Yeah, I scrutinized this with a magnifying glass before it became law, and the reason for that was that the government was lying to us, and the governor was okay with the government lying to us about the purpose of the act. because we were being told that this is to clean up in the aftermath of hurricane. And I'm like, yeah, but
That's
I
really
see.
what was being pushed. That was the
Yeah,
loudest
yeah,
reasoning that was in the
yeah.
public's domain locally, which is why I feel now that certain people using certain language, including MPs and persons like yourself, who were actually speaking the language as stated in the act, people were saying, "Oh no, that's not what it's for. What? Why? We don't need an army or soldiers." But you were actually speaking what is in law. And it's only because what was being pushed was only to help assist the fire officers in cleaning up post the aftermath of any natural disasters or hurricanes.
I even joked that the purpose of the camouflage uniforms that they would be using is to scare away the hurricanes.
Oh my God.
But no, but I didn't accept being lied to like that. And unfortunately, not very many people are willing to stand up. But I was able, in a meeting streamed live on Facebook
Mhm.
with Mr. Howell, had forced Mr. Howell to admit live during that stream. It took him about an hour to realize that he wasn't going to escape the corner that I had pushed him into. And he finally admitted that it was a military, because the way he was trying to couch it was to say that no, it's not a military, it's a regiment.
Mhm.
And I'm like, sir, a regiment
One
is a
and same.
division of a military.
Mhm. Mhm.
Don't tell me that.
Mhm.
And I said, well, okay, tell me then, why would you be performing military services? Okay, well, what's a military service? And I said to him that, what that essentially means is that military is about killing and being killed. Okay? This is not just about hurricanes. Sure, a military officer can go and clean up in the aftermath of a hurricane, but that's not all that it or it the Defense Act doesn't limit them to that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so that's the part that I basically pinned him down on. And you know who else chimed in when I was drilling him on this? Um, uh, Alric Lindsay.
Mhm.
Alric Lindsay is a lawyer. He said during the meeting that the sections that I was bringing up to him, um, what I was saying was correct.
Do you feel that locally, now that there have been so much discussions and actually now speaking the truth about the Defense Act and really what the regiment was set up to do, that with proper public education, continuing discussions of this nature, that persons would actually be more embracing of exactly what it was intended for in the first place?
Well, myself, I'm not against the concept of having, um, a military. I'm not against that concept,
Hmm.
because security is an absolute necessity. And we can be presented with all sorts of threats on a daily. So I'm not against the regiment. What I am against is when politicians look at me thinking I'm stupid, lying to my face, and think that I'm just going to go, oh, the emperor, I love the emperor's new clothing. No, don't lie to me like that. If you want to do a regiment, a military, you tell me that that's what you want to do. You talk to me like an adult, not like I'm some child that you can just tell rubbish to.
But you
That's
think
not going to
do
work.
you think that's the sentiments of the wider Cayman Islands when it
I
comes
don't.
to the regiment and the defense bill?
I I haven't engaged people on it recently, so I don't know how people's minds have changed. But if you have a child that's in the regiment
Mm-hmm.
and they get sent off to the UK to be trained at Sandhurst, what do you think they're going there for? To learn how to rake up leaves?
Exactly.
I mean, you'd have to be a special kind of stupid to think that.
But many
That's,
persons, Danny, I'm sorry, many persons locally have never ever done a deep dive into a lot of stuff that we have been discussing here. And I know to some it is very boring because unless you're tearing up somebody's married life or you're getting into somebody's business, some of the topics that we have actually had here to some may be boring. But Sandhurst, how much really of the local persons, unless you're really in touch with current events, would even understand what that means in the context and linking it to the regiment of our own Caymanians?
well,
To just add it up. I mean, persons hear yourself. They hear all of the very frequent callers and persons who chime into discussions here. And it's Danny again on a rant. On a rant? Are we even able to comprehend the level of what you're actually publicly disclosing, publicly educating the masses, and seeing what it is in order to put the pieces of the puzzle in place to see what's happening right on our doorsteps? Not many
well,
people can put the two together.
well, if all they can say is I'm on a rant,
No, I'm just
um,
saying for some,
I
you
know,
understand? Yeah.
I
Not
know, but and what I'm saying is that if that's the only rebuttal that they can offer, then I must be correct.
because
Because
they come after you
otherwise,
personally. Yeah.
otherwise they would come and they would say, "Well, you see this section right here? This says you're wrong."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's not what's happening, because what some people are interested in doing is just distracting and not actually engaging in conversation
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for a variety of reasons. Some of it is political.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised the reasons why politicians will do certain things.
It's true. It's true. Soka says, we Caymanians in war. I grew up hearing that King George III decreed Caymanians free from military service and taxes due to Caymanians rescuing the shipwreck crew on the 10 merchant ships wrecked on the reefs in 1794. This was not documented, so now it's called a myth.
Well, well, whether it's a myth or not, right? I'll tell you what's not a myth. You had Caymanians who saw the importance of fighting in World War II and who volunteered and fought for the degree of freedom that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find really troubling is that people will sit down and allow that freedom to be snatched away from us by just simply not being willing to maintain that freedom by defending it in the necessary ways that we can continue to be free.
Mm-hmm.
So, it, you know, war is not something that is foreign to Caymanian,
Mm-hmm. No, it's not.
right?
Have you been to any of those, the Veterans Gala, and you hear the history that is shared there thanks to,
Yeah.
Shadden and her husband. Oh my God, I'm pulling a blank there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing a phenomenal job
Yeah.
with sharing and bringing back. And we got Mr. Loxley Banks. And it's amazing what I've learned there and how much Caymanians, even generations that are still now actually
Yeah.
fighting, not here in
Yeah.
Cayman, but they are still
Yeah.
a part of the service.
Yeah. Yeah. I know of a relatively young guy at the time. This was several years back. He fought in the Iraq War.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually hit in the chest by a bullet, but
Mm-hmm.
of course he had on a bulletproof vest, and he told me it felt like a truck ran into him.
Mm.
I mean, but I'm just telling you that it's not as distant as people think it is.
Correct. And so
Yeah.
Denver I got two questions for you. Denver actually says, maybe a dumb question, but why are there so many foreigners in our regiment?
Well, I think part of it is realize that the UK is responsible for defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the top brass is going to be determined by the UK. That just means that we as Caymanians would need to step up, become part of it, work our way up the ranks, and become the top brass.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes time to do that.
Another one is we got Shaka Zulu that agrees with you. And oh, sorry, I don't want to miss any because there's quite a few. The second question was from Harry. Can you ask the caller whether he believes in independence? And then I'll go to this other statement. Go ahead.
Absolutely. But if you have if you suffer from an inferiority complex, which many Caymanians do, because they feel that, someone else is smarter, someone else is this, someone else is that you won't last as an independent country if you are not confident in yourself and just have to look up to other people.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that, I'll illustrate it like this. Let's say someone decides they're going to, attack. Well, the size of the Cayman Islands is not something that would be able to withstand some large military. But one of the things that was argued many years ago is not you see how foreign wars used to be fought.
Mm-hmm.
They're not fought exactly in those same ways anymore. Now, as you can see with technology, things are being done more using remote control devices.
Like
So
drones, that sort of stuff, and
that
different. Yeah.
sort of, so it's technology, more technological these days than it used to be. So could Caymanians engage uh, using technology? I think that is, you have a greater chance of that being the case than the physical fighting the way it used to be. If somebody invades the country, there's some level of physicalness that would have to be involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're a small country, so big countries could overrun the Cayman Islands. But there's international law that would help us if we were to go independent. I'm just saying that you don't want to go independent if you're not, if you have an inferiority, suffer from an inferiority complex. Because if the person says to you, sit down and shut up, and you're afraid of the person, then you're going to sit down and shut up. But you can't think that way if you're an independent country.
Right.
You have to say no. You make decisions that are different from that. I can't spell it out at the moment in an example, but what I'm saying is you can't just sit down and shut up. And right now, the way that the Cayman Islands is, we bend over for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
we would have to find a spine, is what you're saying,
Yeah,
in layman's
right.
turn. Because
and I don't see us with that anytime soon. I mean, I just don't.
There was a follow-up from that. Harry was asking for you to explain, but I think you did. I'm sorry, but please can you explain in what world the Cayman Islands couldn't even operate as a small the Cayman Islands couldn't even operate as a small nation state. And what he's meaning is taxes would have to go up by a lot, government welfare program, and everything would probably have to be cut just so they could afford basic things. And further says, like Foreign Office and the military and intelligence service and all the other stuff, they don't do. Now, in regards to what you said about other international bodies going to help. It's
Well,
go
well,
ahead.
we have a right under the UN Charter to choose to be an independent country if we choose to.
Hmm.
So it's called the right to self-determination.
But we see where that's being exploited. Look at what's happening around the world. The United Nations is being dubbed by some as just an audience to sit down and discuss. But what
It
have they done? And I mean,
it
somebody
it
asked, "Do
is.
you think Cuba is next?" With what's happening, Greenland right now is being threatened.
Yeah, but you
Yes,
see
we're going global, but
what the threat to Cuba and other countries are is um is the socialist slash communist direction.
mhm,
It's not if you were a free enterprise country, um the kid in the Cayman Islands, what would be the advantage of having the Cayman Islands? The only thing I could think of is when the when we were ceded to the UK, England at the time, we benefited the UK because at the time you had to literally sail with equipment to attack people, right? You couldn't fly a plane because there were no planes at the time. And so what so the UK was interested in Jamaica
mhm,
because they had vast land for agriculture. The prospect of agriculture in the Cayman Islands is very small.
right.
We would always be dependent
Imports.
on imports,
Mhm,
yes. And so the benefit logistically to the UK was that if they had control of the Cayman Islands, it means that they could deprive access to the Cayman Islands for the purposes of getting fresh water, repairing ships, getting food, stocking up before you attack Jamaica.
mhm,
So, in other words, denial of services. You understand?
mhm, mhm.
But it's not like we have land for planting and stuff that we could just
Correct.
have abundance of food. The food at that time was seafood,
Right.
including turtles.
Turtles. Keith Art
Uh,
says that he'd ask, not mean to cut you, Mr. Azard Miller, if Cayman went independent, would the value of our dollar be the same? And he answered yes.
Well, what? Okay, I think someone said on your program several days back about the value of the U.S. dollar being backed by gold.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case.
No,
In,
I think the
in
UK pound is backed by commodities.
well, they're all actually just backed by a promise, which is why they're called fiat currencies. So they just, speak them into existence, is what central banks do. In 1971, President Nixon in the US removed um, the gold that backed the US dollar.
Mm-hmm.
That's what turned the US dollar into the reserve currency slash fiat currency that it is today.
But
And
mm-hmm.
and so all that really means, right? And the reason they did that is because they wanted to be able to spend more money. But you see, if you're backed by gold, then you'd have to acquire more gold in order to grow the money supply.
Mm-hmm.
But a fiat system doesn't have the hindrance of requiring you to obtain gold in order to back the paper that you print. They just print the paper. In many cases
Yes.
today,
Mm-hmm.
paper's not even printed, it's just digits in a computer in a database. And so when that's why the US is fighting so hard to retain what is called the petrodollar.
For tangible assets, because they're not pegged to anything. They're not pegged to any currency or any commodities. They are pretty much steered by their tangible assets.
No, it's just simply the promise that the U.S. will honor its debt.
Debts.
That's it. Nothing more than that. But you see, the reason why the petrodollar is so important is because by what the petrodollar does is require oil to be sold in, or let's say you're in Jamaica and you want to buy oil. You have to take the Jamaican dollar, convert it to US dollars first, then use the US dollars to buy oil. That is the concept of the petrodollar. So no matter which country you're in, now, of course, this has changed significantly. Countries have been decided to move away from doing it that way. And that's what has triggered wars in the past. In fact, what the US just did with Argentina is to actually go about undoing Argentina's efforts to move away from the petrodollar, and in effect extending the life of the US empire.
So this only pretty much is for them.
This is what I'm saying to you, that while it is true that it is about oil, it's not about oil in the way that people think it is.
Yeah.
It's about protecting the concept of the petrodollar, because if they do that, then that means there will always be a high demand for the US dollar, which means access to massive liquidity in the US market. And whoever has access to that liquidity first benefits the most.
I did a quick, me, pulling up the petrodollar, because we're all about educating one another here, right? And the definition that I got is petrodollars are revenue from crude oil exports denominated in the US dollars. And it also says that it refers to US dollars earned by countries through the sale of this oil. And then it goes back into a little bit in history. It says that since the 1970s, most global oil transactions have been priced and traded in the US dollars, creating a system where oil revenues flow back into the US financial system and reinforce the dollar's role as the world's dominant reserve currency. So that puts a lot, I deliberately repeated it for emphasis for those who may be getting, a little bit confused by the terminology. And repeating what you said, it works because of this oil exporting other countries to sell oil in US dollars. So that gives it exactly its own value. So
to emphasize that point, what Venezuela was doing was saying, well, China, we're going to sell oil to you, but we're not going to require you to first buy US dollars. You could just pay us in your own currency, right? And Russia wants oil. Well, you could pay us in your own currency. You don't have to first convert to US dollars. And what the US is focused on is saying, no. You're not going to not sell us oil, but sell the oil to our enemies in their own currency. That's what the U.S. is doing by going to Venezuela. It's not to take the oil from Venezuelans, like as if I come into your place, I grab it, put it in my pocket, and leave for me. No, that's not the reason.
I deliberately read that because it is that simple for all of the persons who may be tuned in and not just understanding, because there's a lot of information out there and you just need to ask the right questions. Now, Harry is asking, caller, do you think the United Nations would ever take actions against the UK, considering that one, the UK is a permanent member of the United Nations, and two, considering that the Cayman Islands has a high degree of self-government and apparently now can even have its own military?
Well, the okay. Let me just emphasize the meaning of this word own. It's not our military. Okay. It's not our constitution. When they say the Cayman Islands Constitution Order,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that it's our constitution. What it means to have your own constitution means that you
You wrote it.
decided what goes in it and that you brought that document into existence, right? That's not what happened. The UK brought that document into existence. It was shaped by the UK cabinet and made as an order by the Privy Council, um, stating that in the UK they ordered that regulation, because what we call a constitution is essentially a regulation made in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And the UK used that document to administer the Cayman Islands. But in that constitution order, the person who has responsibility for security is the governor, meaning
Mm-hmm.
it is the king technically, but through the king's representative in the Cayman Islands, who we call the governor,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it is not our military. We may serve in it, but we don't control it. You see, we're allowed to legislate, but it doesn't mean that we can just just do whatever we feel like doing, and the UK is helpless. No,
Right.
the Cayman Islands is a colony. But remember, I was talking about diplomacy earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't use the word colony anymore in the diplomatic realm, because the British doesn't want to give the impression that somehow they're controlling us in ways that are looked down upon. So
Mm-hmm.
they say, let's just call it an overseas territory. Very neutral, non-threatening sounding language.
Right.
But make no mistake about it, they tell you what to do.
Yeah, because this goes back to 1959 when it was actually written and given to the Cayman Islands. So I'm going to do a quick little snippet here. Just
But if you can convince people to believe that they're not a prisoner,
Mhm.
and that the bars that they're looking at isn't really to keep you in, but to keep others
out.
out, you've tricked the person.
Yeah.
And so we say ours.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ours. We're not free. We, in fact, if you read Article 73 of the UN Charter, the interest that the UK should be looking out for is our interests. But in Section 31, subsection 3 of the Constitution Order, they have a clause in there that says that they only have to do the things that are consistent that we could only do the things that are consistent with the interests of the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that technically means is that if they don't want you to do it, you can't do it. Now, they'll tell you you're free to do what you want to do. That's true. We could become independent anytime we want, right?
Mm-hmm.
But unless you are independent, you're not going to do whatever you want to do. You're only going to do it if they allow you to do it.
Well, in this case, if you can see on the screen, it clearly states that, and I have to wrap up because we got a minute. In 1959, first written constitution, the UK granted Cayman its first written constitution in 1959. This created a legislative assembly with elected members, making the beginning of a formal of formal self-government. It was a major step towards democratic representation. So exactly, not that I doubted you, but for the sake of our audience, that you rightfully said, we didn't write it. It was written and given to us in 1959.
Right.
Caller, thank you so much for helping me fill the gap. You saved me today, to be honest. I'm not lying to you. I'm coming down with a bug or the flu, and I'm really fighting that. But thank you so much. You scooped in and you made it even more interesting. Thank you so much.
You need some iodine and sodium.
There you go. See, you even that you got locked. But thank you so much for joining me today. Always a pleasure. Thanks.
Bye.
Yes, that brings me to another end of Sabrina Speaks, this episode of Sabrina Speaks. And if I'm seeing where that's very interesting. And if you want more on this, thank you so much, Harry, for everybody, Shaka Zulu, for Denver, for even Damien, everybody who contributes. Your feedback is vital for the continuation of this platform. And we appreciate your feedback, Shaq, Zulu as well, everyone who commented. And for Danny, thank you so much. Thank you so much for always coming with straight up, hard hitting contributions. It really makes the space that much more informative, and hopefully that every episode you can take away something so that you can go and research. But I encourage you to help yourself. Go and research these things for yourself and come back with questions. I'll do my best to answer them as best as I can. It has been a pleasure bringing you this episode of Sabrina Speaks. I got to go take care of myself. Until tomorrow, love you lots. Take care. God bless. And be safe on the roads. Until tomorrow, have a good evening.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, K-Man, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.